Peace and blessings. This is Ray Saghiwala, the divorced Muslima coach. And on today's episode, the ayah that we're talking about today is your wealth and your children are but a trial, and Allah has with him a great reward. Now, this verse is taken from chapter 64, verse 15, but it's also found in chapter 8, verse 28. And it's just repeated twice, as far as I know, in the Quran. And it specifically talks about the trials of your wealth and your children, right? Which we know are really hard ones to struggle in. And a lot of people struggle in these areas in terms of money and finances, income, and our children. And with those two tests, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has coupled automatically that with me, with Allah, Allah is saying, with me is a great reward, when you go through these trials. So I think that's number one. We have to keep that in mind, that these are hard ones, these are difficult ones, these are going to really push us and put us in situations where we can grow, we can evolve, and we can really rise to our highest self. And this is one that we forget all the time because it's so common and happens all the time. We're faced with struggles in our wealth and within our children, right? And it's so easy to get, bothered and frustrated when we get tested in these areas, the things that are most dear to us, right? And, what I have found along my journey is that the thing that I'm fearing the most is the one that test is coming around the corner. And that is the one that's going to turn into a test, the things that I'm fearing. And, Allahu Alam, but I believe that, Allah is testing us to see what are we going to be more afraid of. Are we going to be afraid of things that are in those two categories, or are we going to fear him the most? And that's what I found from my own experience. And so, in a way, I look at it as, what is it that is vying for space, competing for space in your heart? Is it Allah? Is it those two things? And so when we can remember this verse and have it at the forefront of our mind, it's easier to bring forth patience, right? Which we need to endure a test. Patience at the first strike of calamity. And that is the way that we respond that would be most pleasing to Allah. It's kind of like, it helps us to not take these tests personally, especially when it comes, understanding that it just comes with the territory of life. It comes with the territory of life in this world. And it helps us to keep us on our focus of why we are here, what we are doing, and where we are going, and how are we going to get there, right? And knowing that in the end, it'll all be worth it. And how this fosters patience and perseverance and resilience is... we don't know what's on the other side of that test for us. It could be something, it usually is. It is something that's wonderful that we didn't imagine that we could evolve towards, or we can, something that we can gain from the hardship and the trial that we go through. And, developing all of those characteristics of patience and perseverance and resilience. And it helps us to also remember that money comes and goes, right? And which is just a tool. And the means, but to remember the source of the means. And knowing this and remembering this is so helpful and beneficial to us, especially when we're going through a trial like divorce. And divorce is one of those trials that encompasses both of these things, wealth and children. And so it's like trials within a trial. And things that women who are going through divorce, anyone that's going through a divorce has to face, right? And when we are going through these trials, what we need is taqwa, and what we need is tawakkul. But it can be sometimes overwhelming and confusing to be able to access that within ourselves, right? And so when we're going through those tests and we're looking for that state of peace, such as verily in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest, right? And, can we be in that state of remembrance where we can remember things like what this verse is telling us? And it's going to be our test of our love and obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without these distracting factors, such as our wealth and our children that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, right? And this is telling us also that the reward for going through this type of test and passing this test is with Allah, and we don't even know what that is. It's unimaginable, like how the generosity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even for people, who are not obeying him. There's so much, he's so generous too. So how would he reward us for something like this? And so, as I mentioned, divorce is a time where you're experiencing not only trial of divorce, but these particular trials within that, right? And it's easy to lose sight of the message. And that is why I am talking about what are the things that can cause us to lose sight of messages like these that are in the Quran. And we'll be talking about things that get in the way of successfully navigating divorce with taqwa and peace, no matter your situation. So I hope that this was beneficial for you. Please like it if it was, share and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I look forward to talking to you real soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.